back at it. Did something go wrong? I hear my. Oh, here it is in my headphones. Damn. With all this technology, I never know. Did I go wrong? Did you go wrong? Did the whole station blow up? It was just a headphone cord. Let me screw this thing in properly. All right, y'all. Let's get back at it. Halfway home on a Wednesday, and I'm gonna start with the weather, and then we'll get to some of these other dramatic events. It's just been one of those kind of news days. I get excited on days like this. We've got new maps that just got put out a second ago. And I guess the bottom line, so I don't have to go through a huge elaboration, is they haven't changed much since the northward shift this morning. I don't have the befores and afters, but I'm looking at Birmingham and where we fall under any kind of threat conditions, and it's about the same. So let me just try to explain without being able to show you all the various maps. And bottom line here is we need to wait for our forecasters to accumulate more of these model runs overnight. There'll be a run overnight, in first thing in the morning. They'll be able to take a look at that. That's when I think the forecasts and the watches and advisories and warnings are going to come out. And I'll go ahead and tell you, based on what I've been reading all day today, this is going to be a very complex system with a lot of moving parts, a lot of different parts to it. Some people are going to get a cold rain, and that's all you're going to get. Some people are going to get cold rain and then a layer of ice and maybe some light snow accumulation. And then we're dealing with supercharged cold weather and air temperatures for the days that follow. The moisture may be here through Tuesday. So many opportunities for things to go wrong for any given area as we roll through this whole event, which may not now start for some until Sunday. So, and then that depends on where you are. If you're in Coleman North right now, according to these maps, you are very much still in the path of a major ice storm. Now, the whole system, which again goes from Texas all the way to the East Coast and the Carolinas, started shifting, not the system, but the predictions on the system started shifting north overnight with the new model runs, and we all got up this morning to the relief that it did push a little north. But our friends in the Tennessee Valley and Huntsville, Tennessee may get more than a foot of snow, so very close to us. It's going to be really a memorable and possibly devastating storm event. But we're on that line, as we always seem to be on that line. And that line right now of certainty and then maybe some uncertainty because things can quickly develop. It goes from about Coleman, down to Birmingham and Jefferson County, Shelby County, and those areas. In the center of the state, then you can extend out in each direction and figure out where you live. So, man, I know it sounds like I'm all over the place. This is just what we're learning now with this afternoon run. So what you look for are consistent models, and we had one this morning, we had one at midday, and this is the afternoon run. And they all seem to be holding that there will be this sort of A-shaped notch that will kind of protect most of the folks around here, around the metro area, from too much ice accumulation early in the event. That would be Friday night, Saturday through Sunday, just a cold rain, if this model holds and they can build a forecast around that. Then after that, Sunday night, with the cold shot of air and still moisture around, we've got another possibility that all that could change over, and we could get some amount of ice, not the big major tree breaking ice it seems right now, but some layer that would also cause major road hazards on Sunday night. So it could be that we get by just fine until we get to Sunday, and then suddenly we're dealing with, here comes Monday and school and work and all that, and we don't have this major power outage event, but we still got a travel advisory type event that could last into Tuesday, and then who knows when it thaws out with these cold temperatures coming. So this is a jump ball, and it's one of those things where I believe, just on personal experience, I wouldn't let my guard down. If you've done some preps, good on you. If you haven't, go ahead and just do what you need to do. You can't trust the new model runs today any more than you could the ones the day before that showed us getting a half an inch of ice, because they'll scooch around. That line always moves. It's inevitable that it'll move, and it's hard to exactly draw where it is. None of this stuff is precision. They get pretty darn close, though, and they were right about that last band that came through last weekend going down south of us with a little bit of snow, and that was just fun, but this is much, much more serious. So let me repeat some things. I try to walk through this at the top of the hour so everybody's up to date as you're driving around and getting your stuff done, running errands. Still a big ice potential for a portion of this audience. And some of you are really in for it and could be in for a power situation where you've lost electricity for days. And if you're on the other side of that line, wherever it lands, you may be fine. It just may be a rain. You may not be that inconvenienced, but we're all going to get cold, and we all have that potential that we could have pipe breaks and things along those lines. So prepare accordingly, and we'll wait on the forecasters to take these models and then do some reading on it and spit out some new guidance tonight. The National Weather Service has issued a winter weather advisory for Coleman and North, all of the northern sort of third of the state. Again, in our listening area, but not in Birmingham proper. And that was because that's more of a certainty of impact. They'll be able to have more impact statements tomorrow. They'll be a lot more comfortable with it. So we wait and we prepare and do the right thing, get our houses ready in case this thing takes another turn. And man, I'm hoping that it doesn't take another turn because I'm wanting to get out of this. And I feel sorry for anybody that does wind up in it. So I say keep with the plan. And keep with whatever you were doing. Assume the worst and prepare for that. And then hopefully that doesn't happen. That's just one of those things we always have to deal with in inclement situations like this. But, you know, if you look at the whole system in its totality, this thing is going to be a massive newsmaker. I mean, just feet of snow over the central part of the country, very dangerous road conditions from really the Tennessee Valley north and then back into Texas, even up into New England now. They've got this system stretching up the East Coast, a lot of major cities. I don't know how many millions of people are in the path of this big winter storm. Now, of course, those climates are much better able to deal with it. Now, let me pull this map up. This is a temperature map, and we've got some serious cold air coming in here. One of these shows, I wish I could show it to you on the air. It's a color variable map with the different temperatures on it. And you can see this little notch of warm air that's going to be what saves us in Birmingham. And it's almost like a little tributary in a river that branches off. Most of that warm air is down around the Gulf Coast and then through South Georgia. But one little part of it extends its way all the way to Jefferson County. It's the darndest thing I've ever seen. It's like if you took your finger and just stretched it straight up through Alabama. And it gives us the cover we need so that falling rain doesn't freeze. But it's not going to, it won't take much for that to just disappear and drop back south, and then the forecast changes again. And it all comes down to temperatures. We all know rain freezes at 32. The line between us and the ice, I'll just show you where it is on the temperature map. 38 on this in Jefferson and Shelby counties, for example. And then below freezing right there in Walker County, just right up the road. So anytime you get below the 32-degree line, that's where you're expected to really have impact. You get up into the shoals and go to that part of the Tennessee Valley, and they're down in the 20s, thus the certainty that they're going to get, they're just totally going to get whacked. So I hope that makes sense. Sometimes it's a little difficult to explain all this stuff on radio where I can't really show it to you, even though we got these fancy TV cameras now. We're not a weather channel, but we do what we can to get that word out because we know you're in the car. Most of y'all shouldn't be looking at it anyway. You're driving the car. So there's your update. I don't know that much will change by the 5 o'clock update, but I'll wait for our forecasters to put their guesses and experience to these maps that just popped out, and we'll see what else they tell us. But I would look for in the morning, and this is going to be, let me just put it this way. This is going to be one of those situations where the forecasters on Friday are going to be trying to figure out how much they need to warn people for Monday, because it's a whole different scenario when these things come in on Saturday night versus Monday or Sunday night into Monday, because that affects a lot more things. Again, obviously schools, and keep in mind, if you're looking out for your own kid's school, if it's not icy roads, which seems a very strong probability even in the Birmingham metro by Sunday night, there's not some icy roads and some icy patches on the roads. It could be the heat itself, because we've seen schools close in the past where their heating systems just aren't built for this kind of weather. And then we're going to be in the teens for a few days for the lows. And so some schools may just close because of heat issues. So just parents, be prepared for that. You're going to have your curtain climbers at home driving you outside your mind for a couple of days. Better buy some cheese sticks and Find some games for them to play. I don't know what y'all do. All right, so I think that covers it. There's that. The other big story that's kind of consumed us so far on the show today, let me switch gears and go back to old school politics. It is Greenland and the Trump team today announcing they've developed a framework for further negotiation, which could lead to a deal on the United States getting what it wants in Greenland. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to buy Greenland or control the whole island, but we're working on a strategic agreement to get sovereignty in some areas where we want to build missile defense. NATO's on board, the Greenland officials, and of course, the Netherlands. All those guys are apparently at the table, and negotiations continue. That news sent the stock market way higher today. They were having the heebie-jeebies over the stuff that was being talked about yesterday. You take possibility of war off the table. Trump took the tariffs off the table. Life goes back to normal, and the stock market went up 600 points almost instantly on that news. So it was a pretty eventful, and this story is only about 2.5 hours old. Pretty eventful afternoon just on that front with the president. Really, I don't want to say he can't declare victory yet because the deal's not done. But to get to the point where everybody's now negotiating instead of just saying no, they're negotiating something that could work for everybody. It's just been a masterstroke, putting out the proper amount of sort of muscle and leverage to get people to come to the table. He's got them at the table now. His delegation is talking to their delegation. This is how deals get worked out. It's pretty impressive. All right, let's go to the phones, and I'd appreciate all the phone calls this hour. If y'all want to talk weather, we'll do it like we did yesterday. Any immediate questions or advice you have for your fellow listeners, bring it. Or if you just want to tell me a fart joke, I don't care. 545-9950. Stephen is on line 3. He's up this hour. Stephen, what's going on, man?
Hey, you mentioned the freezing rain at 32 degrees. I drive a truck all over the country, and I just kind of want to let your listeners know that just because it's raining, you would think when it's below 32 degrees it would be snow or sleet. Some of the worst conditions that I've driven in, I'd look at my temperature gauge, and it'd be 24 degrees outside, and it'd be raining.
Yeah.
And most people, they're just, I'm off of work, I want to go home. But you need to consider, if it's colder than 32 and it's raining, just stay where you are, because that rain is going to wash away the salt or anything they're trying to do to keep the road from freezing, and it's going to turn into an ice skating rink. And
Yeah.
just don't even do it. And then a lot of people don't consider, like, where you park in those kind of conditions. Your car will freeze to the ground. Like, that happens with our tractor trailers. If you park in a puddle, you can't move even if you want to. But like Birmingham and some of these places south of Nashville don't have the equipment to spread salt and scrape the roads. So, like, it's even just the danger is even more compounded, being that they're not really prepared to fight the ice. So you think if you're from up north and you think you can drive in it, up north they spread salt and sand and they know how to deal with it. Down here, you're risking your life if you go out and drive in the freezing conditions when it's raining. And I just wanted to let people know that, because every year I've seen it in Nashville and Arkansas and other places, and it gets bad.
Yeah, it does.
And then if you're on the side of the road because you drove off on the ice, the ambulance can't get there because they're sliding around. You know, the fire trucks are stuck in traffic jams because as soon as cars start sliding off the road everywhere, all the traffic backs up and the emergency people can't get there. And if you're stuck there at night, frozen in your car, wet, and just
if you're out of fuel and you can't keep the car running, you're going to lose heat.
Yeah,
it's just a compounded.
Yeah, most people just don't think about it because they're in a hurry to go home or whatever they're doing. And it's like if you're at work or whatever you're doing and it's freezing cold outside and raining, just stay where you are, because you're risking your life getting out in it.
100%, man. That's really good advice from a pro who's on the roads. You know, they have sand trucks around Birmingham, particularly over in Jefferson County. Sand is just for grip. It's not a de-icer. It kind of helps. We don't do the salt like they do north of here. We don't want our cars ruined with that. We don't get enough cold weather. But it only takes a patch for you to be off the road. And just as you said, Stephen, if it's coming down as wet rain, it can still freeze on the roads and get that skim of ice. And that's all it takes to send your car off in
Yeah,
the
and you
ditch.
usually you can't tell. You just looking at it, you can't tell if it's frozen. It'll still just look like a wet road. And
Yep, it's called
it,
black
as
ice.
soon as you tap, yeah, as soon as you tap your brakes, it's over. You're out of control.
Steven, keep it between the ditches, man. That's good advice. We appreciate you calling in tonight.
All right, y'all be careful when it starts freezing. Thank you.
Thank you, man. AJ, we got to have a rule from the committee. Is it time for the Black Ice song, or do we wait till maybe Friday? Or
probably can do it Friday because when
Yeah.
the ice does hit the general area, we won't be here.
Right.
So probably Friday, just to kind of warn people during the weekend. Just say, hey, just be careful on that black ice.
I think it's a little too early. We like it because we'll wear it out if we start playing it today. We're going to wear it out before Friday, and I don't want to wear it out.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, that's what we're talking about, and I think that's probably going to be our challenge on Monday. We'll just do some more weather, and then I got to get this break in here. What you've got, the story. Now we know the weather's coming. We know the cold's coming. We don't know where the ice line is, but we do know we'll all be impacted to some degree. But it appears that the story now is shifting for Metro Birmingham from a power outage story to a transportation story. And both of those are kind of crippling because they just kind of lock you in place. Now, not losing your power and your heat, that's life or death. I hope that's not what we're dealing with. And these models that have run all day today stay like that. But it's so it's thin ice too bad. Is that a cheap pun? It's so thin, it's so marginal that it could easily be tweaked into a worse event for us. So don't let your guard down yet, and we'll wait for the forecasters to give us some more detailed guidance tomorrow. Alabama Bass is there for you if it's time to take care of that situation in your home with your tub. Now, look, if you've got an old school bathroom, it's just how houses were built with a tub shower combo or just a plain old tub. Maybe you love taking a tub bath and you don't want to get rid of a tub, but you need a new tub. You need to know what's going on under there. There can be mold and rot from over the years. And boy, they have seen some stuff. They've shown me some pictures of before and afters. You can even see some of that on their website of janky bathrooms. And so if you just want to replace a tub with a tub, this is your company. They've got incredible products. Everything will look fresh and new. You won't be embarrassed for people to use your bathroom if you got guests or family coming over. Then again, if it's a safety issue and you're tired of that tub and you're going through some things in life where that's not an option, you just want to get a good, nice, refreshing stand-up shower, talk to them because they've got a better product than the big guys. No sales pressure tactics. You're dealing with a 2-generation family business. Mike's been around for 40 years doing this stuff. They know their stuff. They're going to get it done in 2 days, and they'll be there for you in the long haul. Their product is better than their competitors. It's less expensive. Again, a 2-day project, and it just makes sense. Slip-proof surfaces, shelving, handles, all those things where they ought to be to help you secure yourself. Man, it's nice to get clean and refresh and get your thoughts together with a nice hot bath, especially with this cold weather. Let Mike and Jill and Sandra and all those teams, Dewey and John and those guys, take good care of you. They're just great people. It's alabamabass.com. If you want to stop by and see the quality of their work, they invite you to come see their showroom in Pelham. But otherwise, they will come to you. It's alabamabass.com, alabamabass.com. Back here in just a minute. Lead on Live. Y'all hang in there. All right, here we go. 427 back at it. Leland Live, talking at M5 Work Trucks. Longtime sponsor here on the show. A great sponsor for you. If you have a business that needs a truck, maybe it's a nonprofit or a church or something, and you need a van, this is the place to get these commercially designed vehicles. These are no-frill vehicles, just get it done vehicles, built tough, low miles because they buy them off lease and get them back here to Birmingham. This is a smart way to go because you're not taking a new vehicle depreciation hit. And look, you'll love working with Bubba and that team. If they don't have something on their lot that fits what you want, they'll go find it. They'll go track it down. Then they'll bring it back and run through it with their checkpoint process that's really thorough, 125 points, and then make it available to you with extended warranties and financing and all the things you need from a proper turnkey business dealership, box trucks, flatbeds, cargo vans, passenger vans, everything you can imagine. It is WorkTrucksLLC.com. Downtown Birmingham, not far from our buddies over at Birmingham Broker in Iron City. Y'all go see Bubba and the team. Let them get you fixed up. Let's all make some money and be prosperous in 2026. All right, back to the weather for just a minute. And I know we've got plenty of other things we could get into, but this is kind of dominating us right now. Some of these maps, I'm not a meteorologist, but I've been staring at maps for 5 days. And I do think there seemed to be a little bit of a southern shift. Now, they haven't shifted the counties in the area where there's been a major winter storm warning. But it did look, some of these maps do look a little bit, just ever so subtly, more to the south. And if that winds up being the case, you could see counties a little bit closer to the Birmingham Metro included in this. So don't be surprised if you wake up tomorrow and there's been some fine tuning of these forecasts. That's what they have to do, because we're still, if this is pushed off into Sunday, we're still several days out from the event. We got to give them a little space to figure it out. So that's the latest on that. Again, 545-9950. If you all want to get on the show, we'll take some phone calls. We had some great ones yesterday. Y'all bring whatever you got, whether it's Greenland or Minnesota or whatever's on your mind. We're pretty free today. I think we're caught up to all the big breaking stuff, so we can do some phone calls. Again, 545-9950, Leland Live, Talk 99.5. We'll be back here in just a minute. Y'all stay tuned. All right, Leland Live Talk 99.5. Here we go. 434. Man, our friends over at Ox Foundation Solutions, we talk about this cold air, especially next week. You start getting the teens. If your house has a crawl space, and I grew up in a house like this, really drafty. I'm 100% sure it wasn't encapsulated, but that you can almost feel a draft not only from your windows and doors, but just it feels like it's all around you in your house. And that's because anybody with a crawl space needs to have encapsulation done. It's a thermal barrier in addition to being a moisture barrier. You get a lot of stuff that comes up from underneath and gets inside your home. You don't want that either. Let Ox Foundation Solutions take care of that for you. That is what they do and who they are, and they're just the best. This is a comprehensive company that if they spot any other trouble, they can handle anything your foundation throws at them, from whole house shifts. Those are the big projects, down to cracks, water coming in, mold removal and remediation, all of that stuff that can develop over time. And, of course, encapsulation. These are the pros, man. They're going to drive up in these good-looking trucks with these uniforms. You're dealing with a real professional organization that is just industry-leading in all of the major services for underneath your home. It is oxstrong.com, OX. Get them over to give you a looky-loo if you're just concerned about some things, or you've sensed some moisture, or you notice there's some shifts, or you just need encapsulation. It's oxstrong.com, OX, oxstrong.com. All right, let's take some phone calls, and then I've got a couple other little side stories to jam in here too, as we can kind of take our foot off the gas a little bit toward the end of the show. John is on a cell phone. John's up next. What's up, John?
Hey, Leland. How you doing, pal?
Hey, man.
Oh, hey, I was just talking to AJ. Man, what this mystery that I know y'all want someone to solve, I got it solved already.
Okay.
About the pungent smell in Switzerland.
Okay.
What's the guy's name? He's sort of like a space cadet from Canada, and he's a dingbat girlfriend.
Oh,
Katy Perry.
Yeah, who was that former prime minister? I forget his name already. He's already irrelevant. Anyway, I know you're talking about the former prime minister. Yep.
Anyway, Katy Perry sat down when she uncrossed her legs. The pungent detector went off.
Yikes.
Mystery solved.
Yikes.
Love you, mean it. Bye.
John, thanks for adding nausea. I was going to try to cut back on dinner tonight. I'm trying to watch my diet, and now I'm not hungry.
Yeah, if you want a good diet plan, just rework that on your radio. Yeah.
Oh. All right. Let me do something rare. I'm going to praise some Republicans here this afternoon. I'll get on their case, and I got buddies, and they get sideways with me, but I'm not here to cheer for anybody's party. I don't wear a team jersey. I'm here to call balls and strikes. And I guess sometimes I'll get on those guys because I expect more of them. They're the party I'm forced to vote for, and then I get let down for the last 20 years most of the time. But sometimes they step up and they show some leadership. So there are a couple of things today that are interesting. I'll start with Katie Britt, who put a statement out today saying she's now signed on to be a co-sponsor of the SAVE Act. She had not done this before now. I don't know if that was strategic, but there were a lot of add-ons today around the country of other sort of holdouts. I don't know that it means momentum is building toward getting that passed in the Senate. I think the House can get it through. If it's a reconciliation bill and they get it into the Senate, we're going to have meaningful change in the voter laws coming up in this midterm cycle, which could be the only thing that saves the Republicans. If you give the Democrats a chance to stuff ballots and to cheat, they're going to do it. They're going to do it. It's why they designed those systems, the mail-in stuff, not letting non-citizens vote. All that has to be changed. And then we get integrity back in the country. I think we might even trust elections again, which we're all kind of dubious of right now. And that's how our country falls apart. It's an old saying, but if you don't have the ballot box, you wind up with the bullet box. And we don't need that. We don't need that. We need to trust that our vote counted, and there's just no integrity in these states that game the system. So hopefully enough Republicans will see the light and join that. So as critical as I can be of Britt and her team from time to time, they did the right thing, and good for them. So there's that. Then there's this story. I didn't even see this locally, but I saw it on a sort of a national site that reports on things. We got redistricting. Let's talk for a minute. Alabama, as you know, was forced into a second majority minority district, or a district was drawn to really produce a black Democrat. in the United States Congress. And indeed, Shamari Figures wins this race. We draw our maps. The Supreme Court is taking up a case that could eliminate this idea of race-based gerrymandering based on civil rights protections under the law. It's just inconsistent with the Constitution to use race as a standard to draw congressional districts. Congressional districts need to be drawn based on geography and what the people in those districts have in common, evenly proportioned. And gerrymandering is just that process that's been used in both directions. Republicans use it too. When they were required to sort of set aside a minority district here in Alabama, they drew themselves better districts and shoved all the Democrats and African-American voters into the 7th district. But if it's tossed, if that concept is tossed and Alabama can draw those maps any way they want to, the headline here is apparently a group has pulled together a map and a plan. As you know, the Alabama legislature is in session now. And all I've got is the surface information from it. But just to break it down, we have 7 congressional districts in Alabama. 2 of those are in the hands of the Democrats because of this race-based gerrymandering. And Republicans have created a map to be ready. And I was calling for this last holiday season when the court took that case up. In other words, as soon as that ruling is out, if it goes the way of the Constitution, strict constitutionalist, and not all this stuff that's been made up over the years, then Alabama needs to be ready to have maps that it can get passed and passed quickly, maybe even before the midterms. Now, nobody knows when that ruling is going to come out. I'm not even sure when it's scheduled. The one we're waiting on right now is about Trump's tariff authority. And boy, that could be consequential in a terrible way here in the next few weeks. Now, another question on that, I'm getting a lot of questions about that. If that ruling goes averse, I'm understanding the Trump team does have several fallback ways to keep the tariff strategy in place. The tariff authority that Trump is citing in this case could get swatted down, but then he could assert other areas of the law where he still has the authority. In other words, it's not universal. It's about a specific point in law. And I don't mean to get too in the weeds with that, but that's what we're waiting on. And now what you want is a clean ruling where Trump can behave like other presidents and use this authority. They've always all had this authority to do these things, but Trump's using it different. He's using it as a weapon and as a lever, and other presidents just allowed us to get run over with our tariff strategy, even though they had the authority to do the same thing. So anyway, that's a side note. Back to Alabama. Apparently, the Republicans do have maps where they redraw the 7 districts and make them where they don't specifically draw minority-oriented Democrat districts. And that's fascinating because they've got to be able to do that. That's going to eliminate a lot of Democrats from Congress because they do everything based on identity these days. It's their business model. That and illegals. So back to the Republicans, it's smart for them to have maps and have agreed to these. That's always a food fight. It gets very personal. People look and see where they live and decide whether they're drawn in or out. And right now, the maps in Alabama are just ridiculous. They very much don't look like normal shaped congressional districts. So if they can pass something that at least the party can agree to and pass it quickly, there are also timelines associated when you pass these things. You got to go potentially and redo the whole primary. In other words, you've got Republicans running in their districts all over the state, incumbents, and then, I don't know, are there any open seats? Yeah, I guess Barry Moore, who's running for the Senate, that's now an open seat down in South Alabama. If that gets redrawn, you're going to have to redo the primary. Does that make sense? You got to rerun, at least in Congress, the primary based on the districts in the House side. And that's going to be a little calamitous, but then you're also up against election timelines. So they've included both the map, the drawing, the structure of them, and a plan to create special primaries that would be called this year if those seats are abolished. And I guess let's just say we'll take Gary Palmer's district. If nobody's running against Gary and his district's largely still intact, and nobody decides to run against him, then there's no need for a primary. But if somebody wants to challenge based on new district lines, you got to have a primary in that particular district. And then, of course, general election is general election, and we don't have those maps set yet anyway. That also brings to mind that We've got qualifying that ends at 5 o'clock on Friday, so there could be some headlines there. If there are any surprise entries in some of these races, if I had to suspect there'd be a surprise entry, it'd be in the governor's race or maybe Senate. Senate's already so crowded, and some of the other offices are just not as interesting. But we'll give you updates on that live on Friday afternoon if there's any headlines to be made. But I'm fascinated with this congressional thing. We'll watch it and see where that stands. And, of course, if we get any kind of fix on when that Supreme Court ruling is due, we'll try to have that for you. So good on them. And then over in the House side today on the Hill, the full court press on Bill and Hillary. Some of this is stagecraft, but they have actually officially voted in the Oversight Committee to pursue a subpoena or actually criminal charges against Bill and Hillary Clinton for not showing up to their subpoenaed testimony in oversight very recently. Now, that's the kind of aggression we need from those guys. You can talk to Steve Bannon and others who decided they didn't want to testify before Congress and ignored the subpoenas, went to jail for it. I forget how long Bannon went to jail, but it was for this very same thing. And there have been, of course, others that have been jailed on the Republican side of the aisle for ignoring subpoenas. The Clintons think they're above that. They're above the United States Congress, and they're not. And so if Congress is going to stick up for itself, and if those subpoenas are going to be anything that's close to meaningful, they need to enforce it. I think about Eric Holder, who did the same thing when oversight came after him. This dude just blew him off and was never charged or pursued, and he was allowed to go on with his life and keep being a menace, even on this redistricting issue, by the way. Kind of folds back into that story for a second. So we'll see where they go on the Hill with this, but some forward motion, even though I still think a lot of this stuff is stagecraft and a lot of the Republicans in Congress just want to look tough. You get a sense, and I'll just say this from a gut level, Trump's say his success on Greenland today, as far as that has gotten pushed, and we're still waiting on details. When he goes over and dominates on the world stage, dominates on the Greenland issue, gets everybody at the table, every single economic indicator is looking good right now for the president. He's got wind at his back that if he wants to turn that political capital on his own party and push through the SAVE Act or get them more aggressive, I think you're going to start seeing it hard to not vote with their party and to be these little folk heroes to their own ego that you have sometimes with Massey and Rand Paul and those others as these critical votes come up. Trump's walking. He's going to fly back from Switzerland like King Kong just marched through Tokyo, and we'll see how they react to him. Deep down, there are plenty of Republicans that still seethe at the fact that he's showing them up. I think he more embarrasses some of them than even the Democrats because they have made excuse after excuse for failing to act and be aggressive in certain areas where they can always blame being in the minority or being not having enough majority. There's always something where they can't get it done. This man's getting it done, so it's time for his party to step up and show some cajones or some huevos. What are we calling them? Kiwis. That's what we're looking for out here in the rest of the world. Hueytown Pawn, ready to hook you up if you got a need for a weapon of any type. They've got deals from time to time. Tommy will call me with the sort of the deal of the week, and sometimes it lasts more than a week, but he just reached out this week. And, yep, they got another one now. Look, they've got specials and deals all the time at Hueytown Pawn that are very attractive. It's a nice gun store. They did indeed start as a pawn shop, but over time became a gun store. And so he has got the deal right now while they last, and that's not a FOMO thing. It's just he gets a shipment in, he puts a nice price on them. That gets you in the door. Most likely you're going to buy other stuff while you're there. I know I have. But here it is. It's the ATI AR-15 pistol. If you're familiar with the brand, familiar with the platform, those are on sale right now as long as they last for $349.99. You can't beat that. I remember when you couldn't find an AR for under $1,000. I mean, almost any platform. Those are good prices. That's a nice gun. Maybe you want a couple of them. I don't know if he's got a limit because of the limited supply. And when you get there, you'll just get to meet them. You'll get to know Tommy. You'll have a friend in the business that can do black gunsmithing and, of course, anything else you need. They've got a vault full of sound suppression. all the kind of optics. If you need a hunting rig and you want to trick that out, hunting options, shotgun and rifle, pre-owned stuff because they do have a pawn license. Y'all, it's a nice store to go visit right over to Hueytown, especially if you don't get iced in on this Saturday and take advantage of one of those ARs and get to know Tommy and the team at Hueytown Pawn, Brook Lane Drive, HueytownPawn.com. Back here in just a minute, Leland Live Talk 99.5. That's what I'm talking about, AJ. I hadn't heard that one in a while. Storm Restoration Roofing, ready to take care of you if the storm does something funky to your house. Boy, it can happen. We've got all kind of inclement weather coming over the next few days. We all need a good roofer. I mean, that's not something you use all the time, but from time to time, Greg's going to do a little piece of a new construction project I'm working on for this year. Excited to have him involved in all that. I'm going to use a lot of my sponsors because these guys are the best. And I'm telling you, if you need somebody up on your roof to give you a full report and let you know what's going on because you know you've got issues, send Greg up there. He and his team have been at it they're in their end of their third decade of being on roofs. got his whole family involved, a family business generationally ready to take care of anything you need, whether it's an insurance claim and you need help with the proper claim and to file it right with all that expertise that he has and his relationships with knowing how to work with these insurance companies. And then, of course, when you need a whole new roof because it's just old and it's time. Roof cleaning, they do this low pressure solvent type cleaning too that can make your whole house look new. It's Storm Restoration Roofing. Y'all give Greg a call. These guys work on a phone number, and they've used that for years. Just an old school way to do business, and I like it. So stick this number aside, especially if you wind up in an emergency or something weird goes on. Storm Restoration Roofing, 205-542-3531, 205-542-3531, Storm Restoration Roofing. All right, let me boogie over to a couple other things. I'm just always scrolling around for stuff that pops up in the news, and this is pretty fascinating. We'll start with Ayanna Presley. Do you know who I'm talking about? The bald lady that's always screeching about Trump, hates Trump. Well, she voted with the Oversight Committee. She's on Oversight to hold Bill Clinton in contempt. They just had that contempt vote, but she voted with the Republicans, and I think maybe another Democrat or two did that. Because he didn't show up. Now, there was this soundbite, and if I find it again, I'll play it for you. She's saying that the protection of women and women abusers is a big part of what she's about. And it's pretty clear from the video images that were, and of course the still images that were released, is that Bill Clinton was knee deep in that Epstein stuff, and we all know it. Then that brings to mind they had a little twerp on CNN or something, and he kept popping off that Trump was part of it and making direct accusations. They forced that kid to apologize because he's wrong and he's going to get sued over it, and he should. He's 25 years old, and he's too young and stupid to be on national television, but CNN will do that from time to time. That story's been in the news. I don't care to waste your time on the sound bites because I don't even know who he is. And then there's Ted Cruz. Suddenly, bad optics for him. This being reported just like 30 minutes ago on TMZ. It's funny how they can get political scoops ahead of everybody else. But Ted Cruz was just seen flying to California before this big winter storm hits in Texas. Now, I'm trying to search my memory box. It's in there somewhere. Cruz did this before where there was something going down back home, and he was down in, I want to say, South America somewhere, and had to suddenly come back. It's like when that mayor of L.A. was gone during the fires. Now, he's not the governor of Texas. And maybe he's planning to come back before the weekend, but Texas is going to see this ice storm ahead of the rest of us. So it's going to widely impact his state, probably starting 48 hours from now. But for some reason, he's heading to California. Look, he's got a right to do that, but it just looks bad. It's going to look bad to people in Texas. And so there's that story tonight. We'll probably hear a reaction from him or something. Let me see what TMZ is saying about it. I hate to click on their links and give them any clicks, but still. It says Ted Cruz appears to leave Texas right before winter storm. There's a video of him. I guess somebody followed him. Saw him on an airplane and spotted him heading to California. Here's a video of it. It says, although the weather in Laguna Beach is forecast to stay in the low 60s throughout this week, Cruz's team claims he is back for the storm. He was on a pre-planned work travel that was scheduled weeks in advance. Isn't the first time. This goes back to that other story that he skipped. Yeah, he took his family to Cancun while that other winter storm. You remember the one that I'll never forget it because my first grandson was born in Dallas, and that's the same year. He was about a year old when that big freeze hit Dallas, locked him out of power, and their little family had to huddle up and try to stay warm for a few days. And it was just pure misery. Their whole electrical grid starts to collapse. Y'all remember that a few years back, maybe 5 years ago? Yeah, Cruz dipped on that one too. So maybe he just hates cold weather. I can't blame him, brother. I mean, I do too, but I ain't a senator. So I guess his staff's trying to do some cleanup, saying he'll be back or he is back or something. But there's that this afternoon. Little optics for Ted Cruz. Man, I remember when he was riding high, and he just seems – he's still a smart guy, and I think he's a good, solid senator that votes right. But I'm not 100% on Ted sometimes. I'm just saying. All right, let's do the top of the hour break. We'll do another recap. There's been enough time since those 4 o'clock maps came out to see if our forecasters that are really dug into the stuff have got any interpretation or guidance. Some of them are going to be hesitant to do that. That move last night that shifted this whole thing north and caused some great relief for really Birmingham Metro South has got them spooked enough to say, look, let's just wait till we get some consistent models, and that'll probably be tomorrow before they want to put it on the line and make any direct predictions. But it's coming, and we don't know where and when or how much, but it's on the way. We're all going to be dealing with it this weekend one way or the other. Updates on that, your phone calls and headlines too. Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Y'all stay tuned. Here we go.